Following program is sponsored by the Medicine Center Pharmacies. You're listening to News Talk 1480 WHBC and Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy. Now here's your host, Paul White.
Good morning and welcome to Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy. I'm your pharmacist, Paul White. We're very glad you joined us this morning. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Studio Arts and Glass, Mercy Medical Center, and of course, our socially distant technical producer, J.D. DeAngelis. Today, Brad and I are broadcasting from our administrative offices, and our guest is Julie Dominick with Mercy Medical Center. Julie is a clinical specialist in occupational therapy, a certified driver rehabilitation specialist, and a licensed Ohio driving instructor for people with disabilities. Good morning, Julie, and welcome back to the show.
Good morning, Paul. Nice to be here.
During the winter months, it is so easy to get cozy indoors. You can just curl up on the couch, drink hot chocolate, and binge watch your favorite films or streaming shows. But what happens once you walk outside and go for a drive? Wintertime can be beautiful, fun, and exciting, yet somehow it can be pretty dangerous out there on the roads, particularly for drivers. According to the Federal Highway Administration, each year over 1,000 people are killed in vehicle crashes on slushy, icy, or snowy roads. Considering our weather, it probably isn't a surprise to learn that Ohio ranks as one of the worst states for winter driving fatalities. This morning, we're going to talk with Julie and learn about her tips for safe winter driving. We'd like to remind our listeners that our program is also available on our podcast, so you can search for Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy in your favorite podcast app, and please subscribe to our show.
So, Julie, welcome back to our show. Tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself again to our listeners.
All right. I'm an occupational therapist. I've been working at Mercy for 30 years. I do driver rehabilitation, and that's been for about the last 22 years. I typically am doing driving assessments related to medical conditions to determine if someone has the potential to learn to drive, can return to driving, might need adaptive equipment or techniques for driving, or needs to retire from driving. So that's typically what my days look like, are those type of assessments.
Seen a lot of changes in 30 years at Mercy Medical Center, haven't you?
I have. Yes, I have. And I don't think those are done yet, Paul.
I know. I think there's more coming, aren't they?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about Mercy's driver rehab program.
Okay, so it's basically a comprehensive medically based assessment program to determine if a person is fit to drive while having the necessary skills for safe operation of a motor vehicle, including having the vision, the cognition, and the physical skills for doing that. I do a clinical portion as well as a behind the wheel portion as that's appropriate. So I do have a vehicle that I take people out in. I can assess persons with current or previous licenses, in addition to those with temporary permits, or even before that as a potential to drive assessment. Typically, it's physician directed or agency referral, maybe workers' comp or opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities. And I service persons ages 15 and a half up to end of life. So the oldest person that I've ever evaluated was 100 years old. So I see all kinds of folks.
Wow.
I know that is kind of.
I know.
We have several in the county that actually are over 100 and have licenses. That doesn't mean they're driving, but they still have valid driver's license.
How often do they review those individuals?
Never.
Really? They get a license every year, renew every year?
They renew every 4 years in our state, but there's no age determination or changes in any of the laws regarding age. That's a bit discriminatory. So they have not done any of that. So.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So Paul, you can drive for a long time yet.
Okay. All right. Well, that's only a few years away. Okay. Share with us any local crash statistics for Stark County, given your involvement with the local traffic safety.
Okay. Yes, and I've got some good ones and very recent ones. So I'm a member of Stark County Safe Communities Coalition, and we promote traffic safety as one of our main objectives. So I also participate in the fatal crash review meetings quarterly as well, and we review all the fatal crashes that occur in the county. So just this week we had our meeting, and statistics from 2020 include that we had 29 fatal crashes resulting in 29 deaths. We had 28 fatalities in 2019 as a comparison. So it's pretty consistent. However, some of the stats are pretty disturbing. 77% of the at-fault drivers last year, 2020, were unbelted drivers. And that stat increased from the previous year, which was 48%. So the huge increase. 31% of the fatal crashes involved drivers over the age of 55. So we consider that the mature area. And then 17% involved drivers under the age of 24, which you kind of anticipate and expect a little bit. Crashes involving alcohol and drugs significantly increased from the previous year. So get this, 55% involved drugs and alcohol, while it was 43% in 2019. And the drug crashes went up 3.5 times. So we have a big concern. And I think, looking at what happened last year with the pandemic, it's not that surprising to kind of know that people were coping with different strategies and unfortunately making poor decisions with risk taking. So motorcycle related crashes and fatalities doubled in 2020 as well compared to 2019. So we had a real rough time with those motorcycle crashes, but that was one of the things people could do. So I think that people were out there more on those bikes than they would have been in the past. So just some things that I think people need to be aware of. And I don't know that we get enough press about it, but I think it's really important that we in our community understand some of these trends that aren't good.
So you're here this morning to discuss driving in winter weather. It seems like on the first winter day of the season that people forgot how to drive. Okay.
Yeah.
Because they're continuing to drive at relatively high speed and semi-reckless and pull up to the back of your vehicle and drive too close and and all that sort of thing. I'm thinking, how could you guys have forgot? It's only been 6 months.
I know.
Or why are you not cautious, And so many people are running around with bad tires, all that kind of stuff. And it's just, I notice that every winter season when it begins, that people just forget that, hey, you got to back off a little bit. You got to slow down a little bit. So why, we know why this is an important topic, winter driving and such. What do we do to fix these people? Okay.
Well, and I think being prepared is such an issue, and I don't think people necessarily take the time to do that. I don't think that they do a checklist and say, "Oh, is my car ready for winter driving this year?" And we got that giant snow at Christmas this year, which was just unprecedented. It was beautiful and kind of very timely, but people were more in their homes this year. So I don't think we saw the fallout from that we could have seen. I couldn't even leave my house Christmas morning because they didn't plow. There was that much snow.
Yeah.
But your tread on your tires is super, super important. And I think people don't check those often enough. They wait until they have a problem and then they deal with it. You should actually have at least, I think it's 4/32 of a tread. And new tires are 10/32 of a tread. So if you're down to 4, it's time to replace those. So, and you can do the penny test that's easily found online. Your battery age and condition is something else that's extremely important, especially if we get a snap of really cold weather, because that's when the batteries tend to die. And we haven't had that yet, but we might have it. Your lights, I've seen tons of people. I can't tell you how many people I'm seeing running around with either one headlight, maybe only one tail light out of the 3. I mean, making sure, because you don't see your tail lights. Those are the ones that you don't notice. So people run around and don't realize that they don't have those lights illuminated. Brake lights as well. And you need to keep them cleaned off, obviously, in the wintertime. Wiper blades, another huge one. Wiper fluid, keep it full so that you can use it. And also your brake condition, because if your brakes aren't wearing right, if they're too low anymore, you're not going to get good stopping in situations where you need that. So there's a lot of things we can do as a preventative, but of course, I think a lot of people wait and then all of a sudden they're stuck in winter weather and say, "Oh, shoot, I should have checked on that."
Okay, I think we probably should take a break here, Julie.
All right.
You're listening to Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy.
You're listening to Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy and your hosts, pharmacists Paul White and Brad White. Remember, you can get more information right now by visiting medshoprx.com. That's medshop.rx.com. We'll be back with more of Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy in just a moment.
Paul White from the Medicine Center Pharmacy. From 1976 to the new year, 2020, we've been part of the Canton community. This year, we celebrate 44 years of service. Thank you for your business and continued support of the Medicine Center Pharmacies. A lot has changed in the pharmacy world over the past 44 years, but one thing hasn't: our commitment to your health. Stop by your local Medicine Center Pharmacy in Canton, Louisville, Minerva, or New Philadelphia, where wellness begins.
Mercy Medical Center wants you to know we are here for you literally and virtually. For our patient safety, Mercy is providing virtual doctor appointments from the comfort of your home. This service is available for stat care, urgent care, 7 days a week, and Mercy Primary Care Monday through Friday. See our website at cantonmercy.org/telehealth for office and appointment hours. Mercy telehealth visits are simple, convenient, and can be used by anyone who has access to a smartphone, tablet, or computer. Our Mercy representatives are ready and happy to assist you. So, whether you are in need of urgent care for minor illnesses and injuries or would like a one-on-one with a Mercy primary care physician, Mercy is here for you. Mercy Medical Center telehealth appointments. Learn more at cantonmercy.org/telehealth. That's cantonmercy.org/telehealth. Online appointments are considered medical services and will be billed to your insurance copays and deductibles apply.
Saving money is awesome. Saving money on items you actually use? Fantastic. Hi, Paul White for the Half Off and Out by store in Louisville. If you think you'll find the same low prices, huge variety, or great customer service at any other store, you'd be wrong. Stop into our store in Louisville and see what great deals we have. Follow us on our Facebook page at Half Off Store to see super specials. Why pay full price? Come in and experience the Half Off and Out by store in Louisville, next to the Medicine Center Pharmacy. Yes, we are open. We are open. The Medicine Center Pharmacies and the Half Off and Out by store in Louisville are open. Some great services are still in play: our drive-through windows, curb service, and our enhanced delivery service. Our stores are fully inventoried and fully staffed for your convenience. 13 pharmacists to help you with your medications and over-the-counter products. So don't hesitate to visit us or use one of our services. Medicine Center Pharmacies in Canton, Louisville, New Philadelphia, and
You're listening to News Talk 1480 WHBC and Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy. Now here's your host, Paul White.
Hey, welcome back to Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy. Brad and I are talking with Julie Dominic, certified driver rehabilitation specialist at Mercy Medical Center. So, what should a driver check with regards to vehicle maintenance and conditions when preparing for winter driving? And we know so many people don't do this. They just head out on the road and something happens.
Right. And we talked a little bit before the break about tire tread, your battery condition, your lights, making sure they're all working, wiper blades, washer fluid level, brake condition. Those are all things that we need to make sure that are in operational condition before we're out in that winter weather. So those are things that even if you didn't do before our snow so far this year, you should be checking those things now, because we are bound to get more snow, I suspect. And there's also some things that you can keep in your car, keep with you, that you might want to make sure you have in your vehicle. A snow brush and a scraper, of course, flashlight, blanket, make sure you have a hat and gloves. Jumper cables are a good thing to have if you have the option for that. A first aid kit. Bottled water is always a good idea, just in case you get stranded somewhere. Always have your cell phone with you. I'm not telling you to use it while you drive, but I think it's a good thing to have if you have an emergency. And also, I mean, if we have a lot of snow and you tend to get stuck, or you have an area where you might end up in a ditch, something to gain traction might be helpful as well. Like kitty litter is really good to use, that you can throw under the tires and kind of get some traction. So some things to check on, and also some things to have with you in the wintertime are good.
We're not making any headway on this cell phone and driving.
No, we're not. And you know, Paul, that's an interesting point, because the governor had a very large campaign set out for last year to work on distracted driving. And unfortunately, the pandemic took precedence, and we tabled all of that discussion. We were doing some really awesome things. So I'm very sad about that, because unfortunately, we have not made any headway in that area, and we really need the education, and we can't do the education right now. So hopefully that will change soon.
The thing that slays me about the phone users is they come around the corner, they're on the phone, and they're not looking at the road.
Right,
And
right.
I'm thinking, many times have I almost been hit, missed, whatever,
Yep.
by multiple drivers.
I would
Uh,
agree.
it's kind of crazy.
It's very dangerous. I mean, that's why you have to stay so attentive when you're behind the wheel at any point in time. Any point in time.
Well, you have to watch the other person, which
Yep.
it could be a real
Yep.
hassle sometimes.
At what temperatures might roads become slippery or icy?
And this is a really good question because on Monday when I left my house to go to come to work, I didn't realize it was as cold as it was, and my driveway was a little slippery myself. But believe it or not, the roads can become icy anywhere under 36 degrees, depending on if there's precipitation on the road. So just because it's not freezing doesn't mean that you might not have some ice involved. But typically between 27 and 32 degrees is when you see that real, ice development. So something to be aware of.
Bridges too can be freeze
Yes.
sooner than regular roads, so something to keep in mind.
Absolutely. And those overpasses and the ramps, if you travel on our highways around Stark County, certainly those are the most dangerous, and you tend to hear about the crashes on those areas because people aren't anticipating that. Yes.
So anything else you want to add about where ice tends to form or where it forms first in winter months?
I think that those are the biggest things. I mean, obviously any standing water, when we have the snow that's there and then it melts, and I mean, you have to watch where standing water is at. A lot of times too, something else that is not so bad this year, but in the past, before we've done a lot of road improvements, we've got potholes. Potholes have tended to be a problem in our area. And a lot of times you'll get standing water in those holes and it looks like there's not a hole there because maybe it's iced over a little bit, but sometimes those can be craters. You got to be very aware of that as well, because that can cause major damage to your vehicle and your tires.
Okay. After it snows, how much of your car should you clean off? I mean, I see these people going down the road. They got a little hole in the windshield and a little round circle they're looking through, and
Yeah.
a little round circle in the back of their window, and their mirrors are all frosted over.
And that you see that a lot, unfortunately.
I know. I'm thinking, how do you people see anything? Are you driving down the road blind or what?
Well, and I think those people may not give themselves enough time to prepare on those mornings when they have to clean their cars off.
Yeah. You can buy that spray that you spray on your windshield and spray
Yes,
on your mirrors.
I have heard about that, and I need to get myself some of that. The car that I use for the hospital used to be parked in the deck here at the main medical center, but now I'm at a different location, so it sits outside. So every day that we've had any snow or ice, I've had to go out and clean it off before, of course, I use it. So I'm very aware of that product, and I need to get some of that because it would come in handy for sure.
Okay, I got it all. I got it all over the place. Here's what you buy. Okay.
I
Here's
need
what
to
you
come back
buy.
to the medicine shop. I need to get
Well,
some.
we don't sell it in the medicine shop, but there's two kinds or more out there. But there's an aerosol and there's a pump. Like a Windex washer or whatever.
Okay.
And the one with the pump is. I mean, there's a ton of it in the aerosol. You can use that can a few times and it's gone.
And it's gone. Yeah. Well, good to know. I will look for it for sure. Thank you.
So
but you want to make sure you clean all the outside surfaces, your lights, your hood, your roof, your trunk, because what happens is as you go along the road, that snow, if it's light enough, it's going to start, going off your car and ending up in the windshield of the guy behind you, or your hood snow could end up in your windshield. So it's very dangerous if you don't take the time to clean those surfaces off. So, and your lights are really important too, because if they've iced over, you need to get that ice and that snow off of there, because otherwise the illumination is definitely decreased and people don't see as well.
People like to warm up their vehicles before they go outside, get in them, because if they're sitting outside, okay. But I'm hearing from a mechanic that you shouldn't leave your engine running, idling in the cold weather for more than 4 or 5 minutes. But you'll see these people with remote starters. Okay, I don't happen to have one. They start their vehicle and forget about it. Okay, and maybe let it run for a half an hour or something like that while they're getting ready to go to work. It's another problem.
It is, and it's not really necessary. It actually, idling is not an effective way to warm up your car. But sometimes, like I'll do it if my car's outside, I will go and start my car and then I'll start cleaning off my car. Turn the defrost on, warm it up so the snow starts to melt a little bit or the ice. But usually under 5 minutes does that process take. I get in the car and I go down the road. Your car's actually going to warm up better if it's running, if it's moving, not if it's idling in the driveway. It's also not very environmentally friendly. Something else to consider because the emissions that your car's putting off as soon as you start it and it's sitting there. So it's not the best option. And usually with those remote starts, they usually have a turn off time. So they'll only run for so long before you have to put the key in the ignition or the.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they won't run forever, I think, with that in mind. So that's a good thing. That's kind of a safety feature, but it's not very fuel efficient for you to sit there and let your car idle either. So you
Yes,
should try to avoid that.
And gasoline is on the rise.
Yes,
So
it is, sir.
it is on the rise. You're up, Brad.
All right, well, why don't we talk about four-wheel drive stuff? Because, if you have four-wheel drive, it makes you invincible. Is this true or false?
It is false, but thanks for asking. So it's definitely an advantage to have a four-wheel drive if you're in snow conditions to get you started and not stuck. But if you know anything about physics, it's the same for all vehicles once your vehicle is moving. All vehicles need traction for safe steering and braking, while four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive vehicles do not provide extra traction for steering or braking. So people oftentimes think that those vehicles are safer and they're going to probably drive a little more recklessly in those conditions, and that's not going to save them. So it's more about not getting stuck. That's what they can help us, but that's it.
What about, when we're making turns and you might be sliding or skidding? What are the do's and don'ts of trying to get out of a skid without causing more harm than good?
Okay, so when you start to slide, you feel your car starting to slide, you want to remove your foot from the accelerator pedal immediately so your vehicle will begin to slow down. So that deceleration idea. Then you gently begin to depress the brake pedal while you are looking and steering in the direction you want your vehicle to go. So firmly depress your brakes once your speed is slowed down so that you can control that car, and try to avoid overreactions, which is usually what happens. So people will oversteer or overbrake, and that's going to make it harder for you to control that vehicle. What you absolutely never want to do is slam on your brakes if you're sliding. And that's the first thing people go to, and then they oversteer, and then they usually steer in the wrong direction and their car ends up being totally out of control. So really important that you're really cognizant of what you're doing in that circumstance.
Okay. Let's talk about snowplows too. I just had a chance to spend some time on the turnpike last week, and it was neat because they used their overhead signs to alert you that there were snowplows ahead, and they were only going 35 miles an hour. So don't be surprised when you come on them that
Right.
They're going to be going a lot slower than you are when you're rolling down the turnpike at 70 miles an hour. So what tips can you give listeners, especially on the 4-lane highways, about snowplows?
So the adage for our transportation departments is don't crowd the plow. And that's a reminder for all of us that are driving around plows that they need extra room to work because they're so giant. I mean, they're so wide, and they also travel at much lower speeds, as you alluded to. You want to watch out for the blind spots while the plow driver's field of vision is limited. If you can't see their side mirrors, kind of like a semi, they cannot see you at all. You always want to stay 2 to 3 car lengths behind the plow to give them that space. And you need to be patient. And that's the problem oftentimes, because people want to fly around those plows, but their slow speed is necessary. And you don't want to pass that plow unless you're doing so with caution. If you're on a 4-lane wide road, that might be possible safely if you take your time, but you got to be really careful. The other thing that they often do is stop and turn kind of abruptly. So that's something you need to be aware of. And also you want to be aware of the snow clouds that they might produce, which would limit your visibility. So that's why you need to stay so far back. So don't crowd the plow. That's something that kind of is good, an easy way to remember that.
Okay, we're going to break for the news. Thanks for joining us this morning on Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy.
You're listening to Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy and your hosts, pharmacists Paul White and Brad White. Remember, you can get more information right now by visiting medshoprx.com. That's medshop.rx.com. We'll be back with more of Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy in just a moment.
WHBC AM 10, reliable as ever on News Talk 1480 WHBC.
From the News Talk 1480 WHBC newsroom, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine says COVID-19 cases are still too high, so he intends to continue ordering most people to be home by 10 p.m. He'll extend the state's curfew, which was set to expire on Saturday. The state will spend $50 million to purchase at-home COVID-19 rapid tests to help Ohioans get tested for the virus without leaving their house. President Joe Biden says it's time to start treating the ongoing coronavirus outbreak as the national emergency that it is. Biden spoke at the White House and highlighted the administration's efforts yesterday to try and end the crisis. Biden again pleaded with Americans to wear a face mask. He said, mask up for the next 100 days. The Ohio State Highway Patrol says nearly $1 million worth of marijuana was seized after a traffic stop on the turnpike in Summit County on Wednesday. Troopers pulled over a rental truck for a lane violation. The driver was a woman from Colorado. She was arrested for possession and trafficking. Candy company Candy Funhouse looking for full-time and part-time workers to eat candy. At $30 an hour, candyologists will help taste test candy and chocolate for an upcoming line of candy that they're going to put out. The catch, though, the job is in Canada, and it requires full-timers to be there in person. However, part-timers can do the tasting from home. More news coming up at 10 o'clock. I'm Pam Cook.
The 10K payday word of the day is
bottle. B-O-T-T-L-E. Bottle.
The 10K payday. Go now to WHBC.com and submit the word for your chance to win. Get those bonus entries too. The 10K payday.
Mercy Medical Center wants you to know we are here for you literally and virtually. For our patient safety, Mercy is providing virtual doctor appointments from the comfort of your home. This service is available for stat care, urgent care, 7 days a week, and Mercy Primary Care Monday through Friday. See our website at cantonmercy.org/telehealth for office and appointment hours. Mercy telehealth visits are simple, convenient, and can be used by anyone who has access to a smartphone, tablet, or computer. Our Mercy representatives are ready and happy to assist you. So, whether you are in need of urgent care for minor illnesses and injuries or would like a one-on-one with a Mercy primary care physician, Mercy is here for you. Mercy Medical Center telehealth appointments. Learn more at cantonmercy.org/telehealth. That's cantonmercy.org/telehealth. Online appointments are considered medical services and will be billed to your insurance copays and deductibles apply.
Is CBD oil right for you? That may seem like a simple question, but the answers don't come from a convenience food store or a mall kiosk. Your Medicine Center pharmacist is the most accessible healthcare professional. Our pharmacists have been trained to provide expert CBD oil information to tailor therapies like CBD capsules, tinctures, lotions, and ointments to your particular need. We have the highest quality, organic, Colorado-grown, non-GMO, full-spectrum CBD oil products. Visit the Medicine Center pharmacies in Canton, Louisville, Minerva, or New Philadelphia.
Brighten your day with beautiful stained glass from Studio Arts and Glass. Let the sun shine in through a stunning beveled glass window that forms a rainbow on your walls. Commission a piece of art to cherish for years. All at Studio Arts and Glass on Apple Grove and 77 in North Canton. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 6, or shop online at studioartsandglass.com. That's studioartsandglass.com.
Hi, Paul White from the Medicine Center Pharmacy. In these difficult times, please stay calm and make sure your medical and healthcare supplies are well stocked. Have Kleenex, pain relievers, fever reducers such as Tylenol, and cough syrup like Robitussin, Dayquil, cough drops, and maybe a humidifier. And make sure you take a good multivitamin like Linus Pauling Super Multivitamins. Also, you might get a good probiotic, and make sure that you get plenty of rest and plenty of nutritious food. The Medicine Center Pharmacy in Canton, Louisville, Minerva, and New Philadelphia.
Your severe weather station, News Talk 1480 WHBC.
Here's your AccuWeather forecast. Mostly cloudy, breezy weather continuing for the rest of the day. High this afternoon, 32. Then mostly cloudy tonight, low 17. Tomorrow will be partly sunny. High on Saturday, 26. Then cloudy on Sunday, bit of snow and rain at times in the afternoon with a high of 33. Watch for icy spots. Cloudy Monday, sleet in the afternoon, ice at night, high 38. I'm Holly Holdren for News Talk 1480 WHBC.
You're listening to News Talk 1480 WHBC and Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy. Now here's your host, Paul White.
Okay, we are back. We're talking this morning with Julie Dominic from Mercy Medical Center about safe winter driving. We've got a lot more to cover today, so let's get back to the show.
All right. So how about headlights? Is it safer to drive with your headlights on in the winter, even during the day?
Absolutely, around where we live, because we don't see the sunshine very often. Today is one of those days, unfortunately. So you're definitely more visible to other drivers with your lights on, and that becomes very important during our gray days. So, and we get more of those, of course, in the wintertime. The auto lights or the daytime running lights are typically lower illumination, and they're usually only in the front of your vehicle. So they're not intended to light up the roadway. So sometimes that's something that people don't really think about, because they'll automatically be on, which is a good thing because it makes you more visible, but it doesn't illuminate anything in the back of your car more than normal typically. So sometimes people may have more illumination if they turn their lights on to the normal setting, the on setting. So you can kind of check with your own vehicle to see if you've got a difference there, because sometimes that makes that helps a little bit. But absolutely, having those lights on is going to make you more visible. Anything for visibility to other drivers and other vehicles is going to be helpful.
What about gas tank? Should you be cautious of how low you let it go?
Yes, and I'm guilty of this one terribly. I love that our cars are so smart that they tell us how many more miles we can go before we're going to be empty.
Yeah.
And I'm not very good about this, but I'll tell you what the experts say. They suggest that you should not go under a quarter of a tank most all of the time in order to prevent premature wearing out of your fuel pump and your filter while maintaining at least that much gas. It's also important in case you would get stuck or stranded or lost in the winter time, because I mean, if you run out of gas, you're going to be up a creek. It's not your car's not going to keep you warm or be able to move again. So it is important, especially in the winter time, that we do keep a level of gas over a quarter of a tank. So, but I think we all get a little lazy, or at least I'm speaking for myself, because I know I can look and say, oh, I got 36 more miles until I'm empty. I got a little bit of time. So I shouldn't do that. That's not a good practice. So I'm working on improving that.
Haven't heard that about the fuel pump. That's interesting.
Well, I think it's something that, that stuff is all improved, because they used to talk about fuel line freeze up. That used to be the thing, in the past, that's what you would get. That's no longer, because of the way our gas, the stuff that's in our gas, that's not usually a problem any longer, but it can wear out some of the devices per what the research says. Okay. I don't have that experience personally, but it is something I'm sure to consider. A lot of people lease their vehicles anymore, and they keep them for such a short period of time that they don't, those kind of things aren't even on the radar. But if you've had a car for a long time, those things are going to need to be addressed and replaced.
What about, what else can you do to reduce winter weather related accidents?
So what we should always remember, and Paul mentioned it earlier, because people don't do it, ice and snow, take it slow. That should be the slogan that everybody thinks about when we have those conditions on the roadways. Absolutely the best option is to avoid driving when extreme winter weather. But if that's not an option, you got to get to work, you got to get your medications, you got to get to the doctor's office. Taking it slow is the best thing to do, and also using less dangerous roadways. So, a lot of times you might use a route to get somewhere that's hilly or curvy. Maybe it's roads that aren't cleaned off as regularly. So you want to try to avoid those places if you've got that dangerous roadway condition. So go on the roads that are going to be treated the most. State routes, obviously ODOT routes are going to be cleaned off. If you're in North Canton does an excellent job with cleaning their roads very, very quickly. So, I think you need to keep in mind what the road conditions are and where that is. My own neighborhood never plowed early. My street is never touched until the end. So sometimes it's a challenge to just get out of my neighborhood. But once I get to, a main road that's clean, then I'm in pretty good shape. So be aware of that. And also make sure you clean off that vehicle thoroughly, because that's going to help you to be aware of what the road situation and conditions are.
Okay, we talked about this. We talked about this earlier, but okay, we come up on winter, first day out in the ice and snow. What do we do first? Clean off your car.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, after the car's in best working condition and visibility wise, when you're driving, you want to increase your following distance to about 3 times what you would typically do. So you mentioned, Paul, that people are right on your tails. That should not happen when we're in conditions like that. People should be staying way, way back. Normally we have a 2 to 3 second follow rule, which not everybody uses, but we should be increasing that to probably a 6 to 9 second follow rule by far, just because you need more distance to stop. You're going to need more time to stop. You don't want to be slamming on those brakes like I talked about earlier. So you want to slow that speed significantly so you can easily stop or slow down or stop as needed. Never, ever use your cruise control if we have those conditions, regardless of where you're driving. It's dangerous to do that. So you want to make sure that you don't use that automatic pilot kind of idea, because it takes away the control from you. It takes a little bit longer for you then to get control. Be sure to get off the road, the roadway, pulling into a safe place if the conditions are too treacherous for your comfort. I mean, you've got to use good judgment, and I think that that's important always as a driver, but certainly in snow and ice conditions. I don't care how weathered of a veteran you are, you may find yourself in a situation that is beyond your ability to feel safe and comfortable. I also want to mention that for the older, more mature driver, the best advice, of course, is to stay home. Because if you think about as we age, you're going to slow down those reaction times. Your processing might be a little less. Your vision might have decreased somewhat. If there's any severe weather conditions, you should just avoid driving at all costs. Reschedule your appointments, try to keep enough supplies in the house in case there's an emergency, which a lot of people, because of this pandemic situation, have already been doing. So that's good. The other thing with older persons is they're typically at a higher fall risk. So you add the snow and the ice conditions, then we're looking at, that chance of maybe losing their balance, falling down, slipping. Obviously, that's going to start another round of problems for them. So that's another reason why it's good for them to look at other options. Having somebody else, a neighbor or a family member, drive or maybe pick up your groceries. Or for those that are tech savvy, we've got a lot of delivery options currently, which have been really helpful for a lot of folks that are isolating. So those are also options that they could take advantage of.
Okay. Are there any medical conditions that restrict you from driving? I understand that would be discrimination or something. Yes, no?
Well, so we live in a state, this is an interesting conversation. The state of Ohio is a self-reporting state, which means that if you have a medical condition that you feel inhibits your ability to safely operate a motor vehicle, then you should disclose that when you go to get your license renewed. And they do ask every one of us those same questions. There's 2 questions that they ask that are included in that with regards to medical conditions. So there's nothing specifically that is, in the ORC that talks about that. Now, diabetes is something that is a reportable condition. And that's something that if the Bureau would know that somebody is diabetic, then there's a follow-up from a physician standpoint with that to make sure that that person is managed on a regular basis for safe driving. But again, somebody has to disclose that information for that to be tracked. So there is no medical conditions that are, headlined for that reason in our state. Some other states are different. But there are some that might create more concerns. And some of the ones that I deal with regularly, and I'll just give you a short list. This is not an inclusive list. Would be dementia, including Alzheimer's, memory loss, cognitive impairment, somebody that's had a stroke, somebody with Parkinson's disease, somebody that sustained a head injury, and that can even be a head injury from a fall, like a concussion type of fall. Multiple sclerosis, debilitation from any type of chronic health issues. And I'll say that because the pandemic itself, the COVID virus, for those that got very ill and that are recovering, definitely has some long-term effects for some folks. So that can even be that group of folks that are going to deal with some chronic health issues moving forward.
So what do we do? You know, we talked about an accident before the show up at Belden Village, and the lady had MS, and what's the next move for that lady? I mean, obviously she'd be, although it was on a public lot, so she wouldn't be. I don't remember what the rules are or the laws are, but would they retest her, or what would, before she's allowed to drive again, or what do we do here?
So the way it works in Ohio is typically we have two reporting sources. One is law enforcement, and one is physicians, nurse practitioners, or physician assistants. So typically that's how the state of Ohio BMV is going to be alerted that there's a concern about somebody's driving that may be related to a medical condition. So in that particular situation, that was on private property, I believe, but it might have carried over onto a public roadway. So I suspect that there was some law enforcement involvement. So if the law enforcement person was concerned based on that woman's abilities, or the way she responded to his questions, or some observations that he might have had, he then has the ability to let the BMV know that there might be a concern. And then that starts a process where the physician would get involved. So retesting might be part of that process, or first coming to see somebody like myself might also be part of that process, because there's paperwork involved and there's a determination of her abilities as part of that process. Now, that being said, that is a process that takes time. That does not happen overnight. There is no way other than by court order that somebody can be taken off the roadway immediately. And typically the courts aren't involved until, there's time that happens. In some of our OVI cases, that might happen more quickly. But usually those people have been, arrested and those kind of things happen. But typically it's going to be there's a timeline to it. So she still probably has a valid driver's license, and she may still be out there driving at this point in time. And that follow-up may not take place for a while.
Okay, gang, final break is here. You're listening to Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy.
Fine.
You're listening to Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy and your hosts, pharmacists Paul White and Brad White. Remember, you can get more information right now by visiting medshoprx.com. That's medshop.rx.com. We'll be back with more of Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy in just a moment.
Are you tired of spending time sorting your medication? Hi, pharmacist Paul White for the Medicine Center Pharmacy. Whether you are a caregiver or personally take medications, our pill packets will change how you take your medication forever. Instead of multiple pill bottles, you'll want to receive one easy dispensing box that contains all of your medications in individual packets. Organized by date, time, with instructions clearly labeled, it's simple, convenient, and safe. Call or stop by your local Medicine Center pharmacies in Canton, Louisville, Minerva, and New Philadelphia, where wellness begins. Saving money is awesome. Saving money on items you actually use? Fantastic. Hi, Paul White for the Half Off and Out by store in Louisville. If you think you'll find the same low prices, huge variety, or great customer service at any other store, you'd be wrong. Stop into our store in Louisville and see what great deals we have. Follow us on our Facebook page at Half Off Store to see super specials. Why pay full price? Come in and experience the Half Off and Out by store in Louisville, next to the Medicine Center Pharmacy.
Hi, Paul White from the Medicine Center Pharmacy. In these difficult days, please stay calm and make sure your medical and healthcare supplies are well stocked. Make sure you have Kleenex, acetaminophen or Tylenol, ibuprofen or Advil, Mucinex, Robitussin or Dayquil, cough drops, maybe even a humidifier or a vaporizer. You can also just turn the shower on hot and sit in the bathroom breathing in the steam. How about vitamin D and a probiotic? And a good multivitamin like Linus Pauling Super Multivitamins that you'll find only in the Medicine Center pharmacies. So take care of yourselves and don't stress about the coronavirus. Make sure you get plenty of rest and plenty of healthy food. Medicine Center Pharmacy, Canton, Louisville, Minerva, and New Philadelphia. Yes, we are open. We are open. The Medicine Center Pharmacies and the Half Off and Out by store in Louisville are open. Some great services are still in play. Our drive-through windows, curb service, and our enhanced delivery service. Our stores are fully inventoried and fully staffed for your convenience. 13 pharmacists to help you with your medications and over-the-counter products. So don't hesitate to visit us or use one of our services. Medicine Center Pharmacies in Canton, Louisville, New Philadelphia, and Minerva.
You're listening to News Talk 1480 WHBC and Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy. Now here's your host, Paul White.
Okay, we are back. This is the final segment of our show. Thanks for joining us this morning. So, Julie, what's the scoop on the rest of the program here? Did we miss something or?
No, we got through everything that we wanted to cover, which is good news. I think what I wanted to share, and maybe it can spark some discussion with you and Brad, is, I think that I want to mention this because I think it's worth mentioning. So the isolation that the pandemic has caused a lot of people, I think, has not necessarily reminded people that they still need to see their physicians, do their regular checkups, check on how well all of their conditions are, do some of that preventative stuff. And you guys might see that on your end as well. And so what I'm noticing with the people that I am evaluating is they have really declined in a lot of areas because of that social isolation, that decreased activity, that not getting out as much. They're not driving as much, which of course, works on one side of the discussion, but it also causes other problems. So I'm hoping that people understand that, we need to be very sensitive as drivers at watching other people drive, being alert and noticing when we might be seeing some things that are of concern, maybe with our neighbors, our loved ones, the people that we are in contact with, encouraging them that maybe things aren't as good as they used to be for them because they're not getting out as much. So I have some changes in driving behavior that I wanted to share with you that I think that are worth noting for people that might be having some concerns with some people they care about. And that would be like fender benders, near misses, crashes, moving violations. You'll hear people getting lost and in familiar areas. That obviously would be concerning. Concerns that neighbors might have. I've had a lot of people say, oh, their neighbor called me up and said, you got to do something with your dad. I've watched him come and go, and now he's running into the garage, and he seems to drive down the street and not find his house. Or, I hear all kinds of different stories. So also, when a driver starts to have increased anxiety about driving, and I've seen that now too, because people aren't going out as much. So now all of a sudden they're more nervous about it, and they think to themselves, oh my gosh, I haven't driven in 3 months. I don't even know if this is, if I'm going to be able to do this. It's kind of that thought process. And that's concerning. That obviously is something that people that care about that person should be a little more attentive to. Sometimes people may confuse the gas and brake, similar to that discussion we were having before the show. That does happen sometimes, especially when people get confused. And sometimes people may be 2-foot drivers, and that also is going to be a reaction if they overreact. Is they push both their feet to the floor, and obviously the gas is usually going to win that battle. Missing or ignoring signs and signals. I mean, when you see somebody drive through a stop sign, that's obviously a concern. That could be a distracted driver. It could be a mature driver. It could be a young driver that doesn't think it matters that they need to stop. Those are things that we need to be aware of. Also, maintaining appropriate lane placement. So when you're changing lanes or when you're driving in a lane, making sure you stay where you need to stay. Getting honked at. That's always a funny question too. I ask people, do you ever get honked at? Oh yeah, I get honked at all the time. And you think to yourself, is that okay? Usually that's indicative that something's not right. You're not doing something right. And it tends to be the slower drivers that are getting honked at, if you've noticed. But and then driving too slow or too fast for conditions. Those are just kind of a laundry list of ideas that I wanted to throw out since I had the opportunity for people to be aware of, looking in on folks that they may be concerned about.
Interesting.
What about some details about your Safe Drivers program at Mercy? You want to share some info about that and how to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. The phone number to reach me or our scheduling department is 330-966-8920. That'll get me directly. If anybody wants to talk to me, I'm always available for phone conversation. A lot of times I'll get conversation from people, questions from family members saying, I'm really worried about this, that, or the other thing. What do we need to do? And then I can walk them through the process. So I mentioned earlier in the program that it's usually physician directed. So I can facilitate that process of getting the physician involved if they're not already involved, and getting an order so that we can move forward with getting that appointment scheduled. So People are concerned right now because of the pandemic situation that maybe we aren't operating at full capacity, but I am there all the time, and we welcome. It's an outpatient facility that I'm housed at up in North Canton, and I welcome family involvement. So you can come with another person to that appointment, absolutely, because usually that's very helpful for me to get that feedback. So I'm more than happy to talk to anybody that might have concerns or questions at that number. Again, it's 330-966-8920.
Do you need to have a physician refer to your program?
Well, I am an occupational therapist, so I bill as outpatient occupational therapy. So reimbursement wise, yes. So we need a physician order with a diagnosis. And typically I would prefer that only because that allows me to know that the doctor is involved. I'm kind of the worker bee that is I give the report back to the doctor with the recommendation. So typically that's the way we like things to happen. However, I can see somebody without that referral. It's just that I can't bill the insurance for that service then. So, but that happens on occasion. Sometimes people just don't want the physician involvement or they don't have a physician, but we have a problem that we need to address. So.
And can people participate in your Safe Driver program and just, pay cash? Do they have to bill insurance or?
No, you can absolutely come for a wellness check, and I can check them out clinically and behind the wheel. I've had people do that before. That is absolutely true, because as you said, Brad, this is about safety in our community. So absolutely, that's what we're trying to achieve. And I'm a driving instructor, so when I have somebody in the car, I'm not just assessing them, I'm trying to help them be a better driver. So a lot of times that gives me an opportunity to give them feedback that might actually make them safer. So we all have room for learning.
Yes, we do.
So when you take them out driving, do you use their vehicle or do you use your vehicles?
I actually have a vehicle that is a student driver vehicle that has a training brake on my side, and that allows for me to protect us and take charge of the vehicle if necessary. I can also reach the steering wheel because it's a 4-door Chevy Impala sedan. So yes, I take them out in the vehicle the hospital provides to make sure that we assure safety. So
I guess I'm thinking some of those people would come to you with a big car, a big truck.
Yeah, I'll do follow-up sometimes in their vehicles as long as they can show proof of insurance, if that's appropriate, because there may be situations that may be the case, but typically I'm going to put them in the hospital's vehicle first.
Okay. Guess what? We're out of time.
Right.
Okay, Julie, thanks very much for coming on today. Occupational therapist at Mercy Driver Rehabilitation. We'd like to remind your listeners, if you suspect you have a medical issue, please contact your healthcare provider. Thanks to our sponsors, Mercy Medical Center, Studio Arts and Glass, and of course, our technical producer, JD DeAngelis. As always, we thank you listeners for joining us on Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy. Have a healthy week, and we'll see you right here again next Friday on News Talk 1480 WHBC. And thank you again, Julie.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
For joining us for this edition of Health Matters with the Medicine Center Pharmacy.